Hey folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado 30 Penny Count.
And Psychic Tom Paget with his tarot cards ready to shuffle.
Alright. Well, we had a little boxing, a little MMA. But really the biggest story turned out to be in MMA, and it's a true crime story. I don't know if you heard about it, Tony, but I'm pretty sure Tom heard about Cain Velasquez.
Yeah, that's a big one. Big.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's been going around Facebook like crazy.
I saw a headline.
Almost as much as the Klitschko's in Ukraine. That's actually a bigger story, but
yeah,
we didn't get to talk about that last week because we locked out. We got a great interview with him. Got into a lot of issues on fighter pay, and it was funny because he kind of at one point said that he didn't want to talk bad about the UFC, but he did get into how the UFC has restrictive contracts and stuff. So that was interesting. But all around, it was a good call, good conversation. He was happy with it. He, said we should do it again sooner than 7 years. And I know, Tony, you were at an event, so you're gonna have to tell us all about that event. But first of all,
will do.
Sonny got a win, I assume.
He won, but the guy made it tough for him. The guy was big, It was like Sonny's 6'4". He was, I think, weighed 226 for this one. So, and he's filling out. Like when he first turned pro, I think he was around 213, 214 maybe. So he's getting, he's filling out. He's a young kid. I think he's like 24, 25 now. The guy he was fighting was older. The guy he was fighting was only about maybe 5'10", but he was weighed in at 248 pounds. So, and he looked a little soft in the midsection, but you could see he was thickly built, through the chest and through the arms. So, first round, Sonny went out there and started using his jab, and he was, doing fine. And then the guy went more into, a survival mode. And you could tell he wasn't there to win. He was there not to lose. He was there not to get knocked out. So he taunted a few times, and he would try to play to the crowd a little. But he landed a few counter punches here and there. But Sonny basically won every minute of every round. But it wasn't like a eye-opening performance. And I think it was just because the guy he was fighting wasn't giving him any opportunities. He maybe stunned him a few times. There were some other fights on the card that were really good. It was one fight was a kid from New York and a kid from the Philly area. And the New York kid really won the crowd over. Both guys put on a great show. And I remember saying to my dad, 10 seconds into the first round, this New York kid's heavy-handed. He had some boxing skills, but you could tell, he just had that type of punch where everything he landed hurt, almost like a Marciano.
Yeah.
And that ended up being a really good 6-round fight. And New York kid won decision, and he earned it. I thought he won 4-2. And then there was some other good fights on the card. Now, I have an article that someone wrote that they just got posted tonight, and I'll send it to you guys. And I really didn't realize it until this. How often is there a fight card that has 7 professional fights on there? Not a single knockdown.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. The only fight that was a stoppage was the first fight of the night. 1 minute into it, it was 2 guys with perfect records, 0 whatever, and 0 whatever, and one guy's 0 did not go, and one guy's 0 had to go. But the first fight went out there, and the guy landed a shot, and you could see the guy buckle a little bit, and he got hit with another shot, and he basically just turned his back. And by the time he went to turn back around, the referee stopped it. Basically, and then the guy was flipping out and screaming. But it's it looked like he was giving up. He was conceding. He was, no mousing it. So you can kind of understand why the referee did that. You turn your back in a fight, 9 times out of 10, the fight's going to get stopped.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, sounds like it was a fun event. Definitely worth missing the show for, that's for sure, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I always miss, when I miss talking to you guys, but, I did enjoy going to that one, and I knew you guys to interview, you really didn't need me as much.
I'm glad you realized that, too. It was like, holy shit, well, this is kind of interesting timing, because we got the guy that's going to talk almost everything but boxing on this show. I don't know, I got a few questions last time, too, with Tom. I don't know how many you got in. Did you even speak during that interview the last time? I don't remember. I listened to it once more before the show, but I don't know. You might have got one question in. But yeah, it was interesting, to kind of start slanting the show a little bit more towards that issue. I think is important because now we'll have people on the record talking about it, and I can use that audio in the future if I want to do some kind of a documentary on it or something to raise money. But it was interesting. Today I got on Facebook, and Richard Torres, the guy that got the medal in boxing in the last Olympics, he is trying to find somebody to buy some memorabilia of Bobby Chacone's, right? Somebody's mother lost her son, and the son had collected all this stuff, and he actually was going to make a documentary on the guy, and hadn't finished it. So I was like, oh, geez, well, there's a couple projects maybe I could get involved in. And I forwarded him to John Scully, told him what he was doing, and I sent him a couple messages. I didn't hear back from the messages, but he was responding to the comments on the original post. And hopefully him and Scully are talking, because, if the guy's going to do a documentary on a dude, he probably has a lot of good memorabilia. So hopefully Scully can spin that, help him pay off, the fair value to the family, and then, get the money to be passed on to fighters who need it. That'd be awesome. And that's more what I'm doing it for than, to blow up the website, but, that's the whole idea of the website, is to start working deals like that and, connecting the right people. I'm just getting... it would be nice to get a venture capitalist to come in, or just a philanthropist, to just be all right, here's a few $1,000s to go out and buy some memorabilia and make this work on both sides, MMA and boxing. Because that, without any of the other ideas I have, that auction plan, I think, is the best one of all. Because it involves people saying, well, I've got this stuff, it's worth money to me, but if I put it on the market, it's going to sell for a higher amount if it's going to people who need it. Because people are going to bid not just for the item, but for the help. And feel good about it. Which they should, because if we do it right, then, everything but the price of the item that the person giving it up wants for it, everything but that price should go directly to the fighters. That's what Scully's doing. So if we can do it that way with both sides of it, that would be a great way to kickstart it. But I don't know. I just probably need a couple more people who are business minded in on the situation to really kick it off. And I got so much other shit going on, I haven't been able to even update the site. But I have a lot of good ideas, and I think that Sean actually just put it in really good words last week. And he really, from his base of experience, being at Bellator, and now being in the stage, one of the first questions I asked him was about all this bare knuckle stuff that he's been doing, and the triad combat, and the mix of the two, boxing and MMA, and the people that are coming from MMA to do it, because either their UFC contracts ended and they didn't see good prospects in MMA, or the money was better, one or the other. But, yeah, it was some interesting conversation there. But anyway, like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, the biggest story of the week is Cain Velasquez. It's a true crime story. And I haven't had a lot of criminal experience as a lawyer, self-represented. But, my legal experience tells me that this whole free Cain Velasquez thing is probably not going to be successful. They're not just going to let him out, give him a get-out-of-jail-free card. But if I was advising him, I would say plead temporary insanity because of the situation. And, it's the only way out where he could get acquitted completely and walk away. But it's going to take forever, because they're going to, take a long time to process the case and everything like that. And there's already delays. But the backstory is Cain Velasquez had a family member, which I've heard was actually one of his children. It's not official, but that's what I heard. They got a lot of people on Facebook who are, posting positive things now that the stories come out of what actually happened. But the problem is he put other people in danger, and not just the person that did the molestation. Because there was 3 people in the car. Now, we don't know the whole detail, so maybe those 3 people were also, the 2 other people, because the suspect who, had been let out after, being accused of all this stuff. He had been let out of jail. And so the word is Cain Velasquez took his truck, smashed it into the other guy's truck with 2 other people in there. And like somebody posted in one of the comments on the arguments back and forth from some people about the whole issue, like, well, you never know. Those 2 other people might have been involved too. All these skeezers got to have friends. Is basically kind of what he said. But if that's true, otherwise, temporary insanity even makes more sense in that scenario, because he's willing to even put other people in danger to get the guy that molested his kid. Which you normally wouldn't do in any other situation. And especially if it's his kid, Like, what's the most viral thing that's going around Facebook about this is people saying, we all say we would do it if it happened to one of our kids, right? And supposedly, one of the articles said that the guy was accused of molesting the kid over 100 times.
Wow.
So that's true crime for you. If there's ever a situation where a guy would have justification, which I don't know if it's a defense, where it happened, but that's another one to think about, justification. That's usually only like in a self-defense situation or scenario, but yeah. It's going to be a lot of legal work, and hopefully he gets a volunteer attorney that'll do it just to get the publicity, because he's going to need some like really, tough work to be done to get him off the hook for this. But he definitely just, if all the details that I've heard are true, I don't see him doing more than 5 years, and that's with a plea. If he fights it, I think there's a very good chance he could plead temporary insanity. And he wouldn't have to go to like, a psychiatric ward for the rest of his life or anything like that. They might have to do like psychological monitoring or something, or counseling. But I don't think that this is going to happen again. I think he's in a crazy culture shock right now, going through all the motions of being accused, and he's got to be thinking at the back of his mind, like, they're going to crucify me, but they let that guy walk. So that's got to be very frustrating for him, I imagine. Anyway, so that's the big story. And what was the second one I was talking about? Oh, I probably didn't even mention this yet, but one of the big stories I put out there, the part of it that I heard, Tyson Fury says this Dylan White fight is going to be his last boxing match.
I heard that.
That's it. It's all done. Do you believe that? I don't know. But
Nope.
He did hype up the Ngannou situation. So maybe he feels like he has to leave his boxing contract to do that and make the most money possible. And by retiring from boxing, he will sell more tickets to that fight. Is he that smart? I don't know. But he could be really kind of tricking us right here. And that would entice Ngannou to really squeeze out of his contract as quickly as possible and make that happen. Because Tyson ain't getting any younger. He says he wants to get a yacht and just cruise the world. Got he's going to make a lot of money, so who knows? We shall see. But anyway, last week, what do we have for boxing? Oh, Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall. I actually got a story about that one. The scoring was so messed up. There's going to be an investigation.
Lock Haven, but I heard it was so bad that they wanted to what they want to do, like have like not a congressional, but like where the commission was going to overturn the decision or something like that. It was so bad.
Yeah. Josh, that was 2 weeks ago, actually, right? No, that was last weekend. Get confused because it's March already.
Last week.
Yeah, last week. So, there's a whole story. I don't have it directly in front of me. I'm trying to get it to pop up there. Hold on. But yeah, Taylor versus Catterall. Here it is. We also, while we're waiting, we had Jerwin and Sajas losing to Fernando Martinez. Old Guillermo Rigondeaux had a tough one. Lost to Vincent Astrolabio on Saturday. Chris Colbert also lost to Hector Luis Garcia. And Gary Antoine Russell went postal. He beat Victor Postal. Let's see. And then Sunday, the 27th, we had a couple, well, at least one fight worth mentioning. Lawrence Oakley beating Michael Cieslak. And tonight, we already got results on here. Wade Ryan losing to Dennis Hogan. And Liam Wilson over Joe Noine. Yeah, those guys are. And this weekend, boy, BoxRec says we only have one important fight on Friday, or on Saturday. There's actually more on Friday. Jose Carlos Ramirez versus Jose Pedraza on Friday. That's got to be the showbox. There's also Gabriel Flores Jr. and Abraham Montoya on the same card. Check out the rest of those in a minute. We got Makachev versus Green to cover. I did horrible after like the third fight on my lineup, but up until the third fight, I had all the picks, all the good picks, on track to win the big money, and then it started going south. One lineup I did have Islam in the main MVP slot, which is good because he got the TKO round one, which is kind of what we expected last week. Tom and I basically predicted that was going to happen. Bobby Green was, on short-time rest, and obviously just taking the fight for the money. He said he tried to put it all together, but yeah, it just didn't work out. It lasted a few minutes though, 3 minutes and 23 seconds, and Islam had to work a little bit to pull it off, but pull it off he did. And it's gonna get interesting now, especially with the Ukrainian situation. Cancel culture is catching up to Russia, and it's probably the only time I've ever really agreed with cancel culture.
Right.
And the UFC has a lot of Russian fighters, so there's going to be some problems, I think, with that situation. But we'll see. I mean, Dana White has always dealt with things a little bit differently, but I do remember there was a fighter who got brought into the UFC, signed to a contract, and he had a bunch of neo-Nazi tattoos on him. And as soon as the UFC found out, they fired him. They threw him off the contract. Basically said, you didn't tell us that, so you're out. They must have cited their conduct policy or something. But they just wouldn't allow it. So who knows? I mean, there's another fight news piece. They took poor Vladimir Putin's black belt away. Did you hear about that?
Wow. Yeah.
I bet she's most upset about that. Unreal. I've never seen cancel culture go that far to take a black belt away from somebody. That's just
yeah. I've never heard that. It's like if you do something like the scandal, okay, they might take something away. Like if you have, like, perfect example, baseball with the steroid scandals, they might say, so-and-so doesn't have the home run record like Barry Bonds or whatever, because it was inflated. But how do you take away a black belt? It's like a position, like something you're going out there and you're like, okay, yeah, I've achieved this level of mastery. No, you haven't. We decided you haven't anymore.
well, who took it? Who took it? I mean,
the Federation, the Judo Federation.
It's your gym.
The Judo Federation said.
Okay, so
they're disbarred. So it's like the Bar Association disbarring an attorney.
What nonsense! What nonsense! That's the great thing about boxing and MMA. You don't need all that stuff. Get in and fight.
Wow.
Who can fight? Federation. Jesus, what a joke.
Well, Putin's fighting dirty anyway. It did not affect him. I don't think he's going to be smartening up anytime soon, but this could be the big one. I mean, it's ironic that the U.S. isn't involved, but they are in a secondary way with, well, hey, here's a bunch of guns. You guys fight for it. And they're just like snickering in the background while Russia falls apart.
My dad's really been watching a lot of this. He's home, he's retired, so, and this has him, really concerned, more concerned than I've ever seen him. More concerned than I've seen him, during the whole Middle East, conflict over the last 20 years, and because I guess of Russia's, nuclear power as well. So
yeah, they say Vlad is really tweaked right now mentally.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's saying, like, people like even Condoleezza Rice and people that knew him that were, like, had close dealings with him during previous presidential administrations were saying things like, he seems different, he seems paranoid, he seems like there's something mentally that's wrong. And could it be, they, like, the one side of his face looks swollen. Could there be potentially, like, a brain issue in there? Could it be, like, could there be a lump in his brain that's affecting his rationale? Who knows? And then my dad's like, they're seeming like they keep saying, he seems sick, he seems sick, he seems sick. It's like, is that a cover for, like, he's going to disappear?
Yeah.
You don't know. But...
Well, that's the part of cancel culture I would love to kick in, If there's one thing we should be involved in, it should be the assassination of that motherfucker.
Yeah. No,
give him some goddamn polonium. Maybe that's why he's such a long table.
What can you do to help the Ukraine? Yeah, well, they're like, what can you do to help the Ukraine? Well, the Ukraine right now needs ammunition.
Yeah, that guy was awesome.
How do you help with that? Do you just, like, send them, like, boxes of bullets or something? That ain't really going to work. But then at the same time, we're so short-stocked over here. It's like, we're running around the clock trying to, produce, and this is even the last 2 years, it's been hard to get ammunition, like even for, like, hunting and things like that. You don't want to go target shoot anymore because it's expensive and it's, low supply. So now it's like if you're sending a lot of your supplies over there to help them, and then the fight comes here, one of the things that is always going to make, the U.S. a formidable adversary, and one of the reasons that we're such a dangerous country to invade is because of people with military backgrounds and people that are just hunters. That's a big thing. I mean, it's not as much as it used to be, but how many people in the United States hunt for leisure? I raise my hand. How many people that have no military training are proficient with a firearm? I raise my hand because I've been shooting since I was before I even had a license at 12 years old. I've shot with a rifle. I've shot with a bow. I've shot with a crossbow. So if the fight comes here, we have a lot of rounds. Now, granted, like, we would never be able to. I've never be like.
Chances are,
hunker down.
after this happens,
you can take out, say, 10 people.
Russia's only friend is China right now, and it's going to stay that way. So,
right.
I mean, all these countries realizing how fucked up this dude is, as long as he's in power now, Russia is going to be on the decline. That's the fucked up part of this whole thing. He doesn't care. So he has to be close to death. He has to be thinking so much about his legacy and his empire that he wants to extend that he's making one last effort to expand his territory. And who knows if he got 10 or 20 years left, like even natural causes death. He might have 20, 30 years max. So he's probably thinking, you know, even if this takes 10 years, even if this takes 10 years, I want to be able to kick back for those last 20 years and enjoy it. This is my empire, you know? That's how somebody that's that egotistical probably is thinking. You know, and so nothing will get in the way of making it happen. And all these, you know, he probably spent so long waiting it out and not invading because he was trying to figure out what to do when all the shit was going to hit the fan with sanctions. He was probably fucking setting up all his money and everything like that. But the problem is when all these other countries say, nope, we're not going to deal with you. So now he has to deal primarily with China on everything. And it already fucking bit him, I heard. This is a good one. Because the Russian personnel carriers have Chinese tires on them. And the Chinese tires are so cheaply made, the sidewalls are wearing out in the sun. And if they use them in the mud, they're guaranteed to be, like, ruined. Because of just the way they're built. So... oh, it's one of the good things about the communist partnership there. It doesn't always work as well as you think it's gonna. But yeah, it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get very ugly. They're gonna get bogged down financially there, and if they really start losing bad numbers, you know, if the Ukrainians make enough of a stand and, you know, strengthen numbers, they just keep throwing guys at them, and, you know, enough Russians get killed, it'll be like Black Hawk Down, you know. We went into Somalia acting all big and bad and got 2 helicopters shot down, and later, you warlords can have this shit, you know. So if a country our size, it can happen to. They say Russia is like the government and the, you know, the amount of money behind the actual, you know, on books government is like the budget for the state of Texas. That's what I heard one guy say. I don't know if that's true, but you know, they have so many of these oligarchs who are billionaires. So that's why they put all the sanctions on them initially. But you know, those guys obviously have to be in on it, and they have to have something to gain here, like by taking over Ukraine. I just don't know how they're expecting to, like, have the people who survived, like, look up to them or like want to be in that country. Like, it's always going to be like a prisoner state. So I just don't see the points. But I mean, he has to be off his rocker at this point. But he's had to have convinced other people to be the same way.
You know, with all this going on, because, you know, we're not energy independent anymore, and, you know, we're basically, you know, this is shooting the gas prices up. It's shooting a lot of things up, you know, supply and demand. Right. You know, this is really going to, I mean, nearly crush the American economy, you know, before things get better.
Right.
So it's like, you got to hope that, you know, that this guy that had this, you know, State of the Union the other night, he's saying he wants to build back better, and he wants to, you know, invest in all this, and it's going to bring jobs. My one friend said it best the other day. You know, he is divulging so much in the Bernie Sanders platform with the socialism, and he's trying to basically butter up the, you know, the people that want to do the green. So it's like, yeah, we don't want, you know, gases and stuff like that. We want to go all green now. Well, you can't sustain that right now. You can't sustain that, and it's going to, you know, basically, you know, kill people like us.
Right. Well, you know, they're using this inflation word, but I mean, I get it with the gas prices. You know, it's obviously related to the Russia thing, but the inflation excuse is bullshit. It's fucking Democratic leadership is what caused that bump. Democratic leadership and the fair share argument is fucking this country up so bad. I gotta say, I gotta curse with it because it's gotta make an impact. It's screwing this country up so bad because the Democratic Party, more so than the Republicans, is all about favor trading and pork, and it's just like these 2 bills that Biden has tried to put through. I mean, when finally Joe Manchin stood up and became a hero of even the Republicans because he wouldn't take the bullshit anymore, but all these bills, like, they got really pushed by the progressive part of the party. And, you know, Biden didn't run on a progressive platform. So it really is going to turn the whole Democrats against them, and they're going to start seeing through the, you know, the bullshit, because I think it really is a problem with both parties, but more so the Democratic Party, because they're just more corrupt. They have a system of corruption that they've been able to get away with, and like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, government itself has just been so corrupted, especially with the lobbyists and all that. But, you know, even with my situation, most of these towns that are doing this tax rigging scheme are democratically run. And they are literally, like, when they started this 15 years ago or 20 years ago, they were literally using the argument that you got to pay your fair share to screw over a certain class of taxpayers to reward the voting class. You know, and it's just like, okay, well, how long can you do that? And I called it in one of my articles, trickle-down reconomics. Because it gets to the point where everybody is paying the cost. So, set like my cable bill this month, $37 charge beyond what I normally pay. What's it for? Fees and surcharges. Well, guess what? The company just had to change ownership, so it got bought out, so it must have been struggling. And ironically, this cable company is one that is in the town that I went to high school in, the city I went to high school in Massachusetts. And it went from Atlantic Broadband to Breezeline all of a sudden. So now Breezeline is coming in and saying, whoa, geez, you know, new company, new fees. You know, they got to fold the acquisition cost into the rates. So that's exactly what's happening across our state right now, because of the scheme that I'm working on exposing, where all these utilities just said, all right, we're going to start fighting back because this one assessor is like just raping us on the charges for property taxes. You know, we're paying too much, so we got to fight back. So they started fighting back and winning. So the assessing guy said, all right, fuck it, we can't do the utility guys anymore. We're going to pass it on to the businesses. So all the businesses in town are going to get a huge assessment this year. And, you know, we'll deal with the abatements when they come. So it's just situations like that where they use this bullshit fair share argument to get more money from the more wealthy people, and then they don't do anything with it except bribe the voters, basically, in this situation. They don't put it back in the till and make it work for the town. Like, one town up here lost $18.5 million to this thing. One town. Their budget is $11 million a year. It's just ridiculous. For 4 tax years, they overtaxed the one big utility in town. And it's just exactly like this inflation word just hides that kind of shit. That's just their buzzword to be like, oh yeah, you know, the world is changing, you know, things cost more. But in reality, it's the government waste that brought us to this point, because they're just leaving so much money on the table, basically. And they're passing the fraud on down to the end ratepayer, basically. You know, if you got, in New Hampshire, if you've got cable, if you've got power, or if you've got a gas pipeline going through your town, you know, it's all affecting you. It's crazy. It's like everything's connected. It's amazing how shit is connected, and how many different people that, you know, are supposed to be in the big positions have to look the other way to make it happen too. And it's the perfect example of this whole world thing going on, because the United States basically has to kind of look the other way. Even though we're cheering for Ukraine, we kind of have to, like, take a back seat and watch it happen. And in a way, like, it makes sense, because we are so war weary as a country. Like, our citizens would not tolerate it. I mean, we can't afford it, first of all. We're giving all the money away. Biden has given the whole treasury away, basically. Like, you know, we're already hitting debt ceiling after debt ceiling. So, I mean, that's the number one reason we can't get involved. Well, maybe number one, that and nuclear war. Probably neck and neck there. So, yeah, it's just a crazy situation. And all these other countries have been looking the other way too, and kind of saying like, well, we'll deal with it because we have business with Russia. And now, like, you know, all the civilian deaths and the craziness, these countries are saying, oh, well, maybe now we ought to do something better. Like Germany said, oh, at first they were like, yeah, we'll send you some helmets. Now they're willing to cut off the pipeline and, start being a little bit more cooperative. But, yeah, it's a nutty situation. Anyway, on the Russia thing, it's kind of funny. The next guy on the card sounds like a Russian guy, Misha Serkunov, on the UFC card there last weekend. He got submitted by armbar by Wellington Turman. 1 minute and 29 seconds into the second round. I had him on one of my lineups. I was not happy about that. Anyway, Priscilla Cachoeira beating Ji Yeon Kim by unanimous decision. Arman Sarukian over Joel Alvarez by TKO. I thought Alvarez was going to win that one. Arman Petrosian over Gregory Rodriguez. That was a split decision. That was one I definitely did not agree with. I thought, if you saw Petrosian's face after the fight compared to Rodriguez, you'd probably agree with me. But yeah, I thought that was kind of bullshit. Petrosian looked like he had a broken nose and just totally smashed up face. But the only thing he did was land more leg kicks. I don't know. At a certain point, like, when the guy is physically beaten up and, like, yeah, he keeps coming forward and stuff like that, but he's just fighting stupid, walking into stuff, and the only good shit he's landing is leg kicks. Like, I just don't understand how you can give him the fight over that. I feel like the other guy did more damage. Maybe he threw less, strikes, and maybe landed a few less more, but it's all about, like, ring generalship when it's close. It's supposed to be, like, who controlled the action. And this guy was literally, like, beaten to a pulp, kept walking into stuff from Rodriguez, and I really thought Rodriguez should have got the win. Anyway, if you thought Zhu Rong was going to win, you were wrong. He got submitted too. Ignacio Bahamondes. I had him on one of my lineups, but just wasn't good picks otherwise on that one. Josiana Nunez got the win over Ramona Pascual. That was a unanimous decision. I did have her on one card, but you gotta have submissions or TKOs across the board, get the big money. Terrence McKinney beating Forrest Ziam by rear naked choke. That was 2 minutes and 11 seconds into the first round. I think I had one. But anyway, Jonathan Martinez before that beating Alejandro Perez by unanimous decision. Ramiz Brahimaj over Michael Gilmore by rear naked choke. 2 minutes and 2 seconds in. That's not one I had predicted. Carlos Hernandez got a split decision over Victor Altamirano. That was one I stayed away from. Totally on both. Because I kind of knew that was going to be close. Anyway. We've got Jorge Masvidal fighting a big one against Colby Covington this weekend. That should be entertaining. If not epic. Goes the full 5 rounds, boy. That is going to be one for the record books. But I don't know. These guys have a big beef, and they used to be roommates, so it's like one of those best friend stories, where the best friendship goes bad, really bad. Apollo Creed and Rocky, Tony. Now they're fighting, so Jorge and Colby, yeah, it's going to be a barn burner, and there's going to be a lot of animosity involved. They'll probably be talking to each other in the ring, in a cage, if it goes longer than Jorge wants it to. But best case scenario, I think, is Jorge gets first round knockout. But I think if it goes longer, he's a little bit beaten up, but he's got a ton of experience. So I think either way, like, if Colby wins, it's going to have to be like a few rounds. He's going to have have a good adjustment, and he's like already kind of one of those tactical fighters to a point. So I think he's going to want to make it slow, and both of them want to punish each other.
Yeah, because he doesn't, and he does not get tired.
No,
That's the thing.
he's got great cardio. But Jorge wants this. He's got a ton of experience. He's beaten a few people, who are legends of the sport, and he's come a long way since his old street fighting days with Kimbo Slice. But yeah, Colby.
Yeah, he's smart, he's cunning, he's experienced, and don't count him out.
Colby
But
is,
I'm still going with Colby, but I wouldn't.
half ego, half talent. So if anything bites him in the ass, it's going to be his ego on this one. And it's going to be tough to lose this one because of the Kamaru Usman shit. But both of them have had tough times with him.
Yeah, I think Colby could make a much better chance of getting a third fight, provided he wins this.
Yeah.
But with Masvidal, I don't know who'd want to see a third fight there. I mean, the first one, we knew there were extenuating circumstances, but taking it in 5 days' notice and the weight cut. But the second one,
Right. Yeah, overall, Colby has lasted longer with Usman, so if you want to go common opponent math, even though they both have 2 losses to the guy, I guess you'd go with Colby. But I don't know. I'm going to do one of those hedge my bets things, and I'm going to say Jorge in the first or Colby if it goes longer. That's my theory on the matter. Because it's really a toss-up on this one. I mean, especially considering they both have been kind of stuck at the top for a little while. But I like the matchup, it's a different kind of fight week when you start seeing the hype all around Facebook, like on Tuesday. And I think Masvidal moved into his hotel in Vegas like Monday. So he was like doing the weight cut and everything in Vegas, the final weight cut for the weigh-ins. So he's getting acclimated, and it's probably gonna be a really big fight week because it's a numbered event. It's not just like a fight night deal. UFC 272. Co-main events at catchweight, 160 pounds. Rafael Dos Anjos, 30-13 against Renato Carneiro, who's 16-4-1. And we got Edson Barboza, 22-10, fighting Bryce Mitchell, who's 14-0 at featherweight. The welterweights, Kevin Holland against Alex Oliveira. Holland 21-7, Oliveira 22-11-1. There's a Russian name. Sergey Spivak, 13-3, fighting the All-American wife beater, Greg Hardy. No, I think it was his girlfriend. But anyway, he is making a career out of himself in the UFC, for himself, I should say. He's had some real big ups and downs. It hasn't always looked pretty, but sets, for a guy who never did it before. Kind of amazing. And pretty much all of them in the UFC. It's wild. And, we always say the thing, the best MMA and fighters out there, boxers too, are probably playing in the NFL right now. If they had made a different choice, maybe we would have an American heavyweight champion. Who knows? Yeah. It's wild. Jalen Turner in the 8th fight of the night, 11-5, fighting Jamie Malarkey, who must be Joe Biden's favorite fighter. 14-4. Jalen is 11-5. Okay, and you got a female fight on the card. Marina Rodriguez, 15-1-2 against Xiaonan Yan, who is 13-2 at strawweight. So that sounds like it's going to be a barn burner. Great matchup on paper for sure. It's rare you see those kind of female fights in the middle of the card. Too, that's kind of crazy. And we got Nikolai, not like the Russian spelling, but Nicolae, Negumurianu, who's 11-1. It's going to be a light heavyweight fight against Kennedy Nchukwu, who is 9-2. I feel like he just fought. Must have been just a few months ago. Anyway, Marina Moroz, 10-3, in a flyweight matchup with Mariah Agapova, who is 10-2. That's a female fight at flyweight. Brian Kelleher in the 4th fight of the night. How about this for a record? 24-12. Yikes. This is a featherweight matchup with him and Rolling. Okay. Featherweight fight between him and Umar Nurmagomedov, who is a perfect 13-0. Looking for win number 14. Then we got Tim Elliott, 17-12-1 at flyweight. That's what you call a journeyman right there. Fighting Tagir Ulanbekov, who is 14-1. Second fight of the night, Devontae Smith, 11-3 at lightweight, fighting Ludovic Klein, who is 17-4. And then first, Dustin Jacoby, 16-5-1, fighting Michael Oleksiuk. I don't know. Definitely butchered that. 16-4. Light heavyweight. Wow. That's a high weight class to be starting off with. Hey. Sounds like a good lineup. I have to make smarter picks this week. Anyway, Saturday for boxing. Just check out the lineup real quick here. We got to find our Jesus fight of the week. Our mismatch. See what else we got. Ooh. How about a guy who's 2-22-3? Nah, this is only fighting a guy who's 2-0. That doesn't count. Alright. This is the guy who has the nickname probably at the end of his last name rather than between the first and last name. Sort of a mismatch. In Herzegovina, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, light heavyweights. Peter Nosik. N-O-S-I-C. He's 4-0. Fighting Istvan Kiss. He's 25-32. And that's the nickname is at the end because it's Kiss the Canvas. Esteban Kiss the Canvas. I'm gonna get letters for that one. Let's see what else we got. The formidable TBA in action in France in a couple cards. I love that how they don't even have an opponent the week of the fight, according to BoxRec. Oh, that's an interesting one. Over in Germany, we got a couple female fights leading the ticket here. Not two famous girls, but bantamweight fight for a couple titles anyway. One girl's only 7-0. Felicitas Vogt, 7-0 against Judith Hochbold, who is 5-13. That one's for the GBU Female World Bantamweight title and the WIBF World Bantamweight title. And then Hannah Hansen. How about that? Hannah Hansen. How about that for a female fighter? She's the Hansen sister. 2-0. Fighting Katarina Vistica, who is 1-18. Yikes. That could be our mismatch of the week, too. They're all mismatches on this card. With some cards. Oh, we got our Elvis fight of the week. I haven't seen the Jesus one, but here's the Elvis one. 9-0, Giuseppe Claudio Squio in Puglia, Italy, I should say. Puglia. 9-0 is Giuseppe Claudio Squio. Fighting Elvis Smajlovic, who is 14-11-2. I got a good feeling on Giuseppe there. This is a cruiserweight fight. Vacant IBO Mediterranean cruiserweight title. Don't fuck with that guy. Know what title he has? The vacant International Boxing Organization Mediterranean cruiserweight title. Where's John Scully when you need him? I don't like that. And I gotta talk about one of the arguments he made this week, just to have a controversial section of our show. John likes to push the buttons, you know. It's probably like a secret strength of his profiles, you know. And I noticed that he's tagged at least one of his profiles with the title of his book, the Iceman Diaries, you know. So I wonder how close he is to publishing that. But you know, that's one of the things we've talked about with him from the beginning. But I love that he's on Facebook, you know, because the stuff he posts, you know, half the time he's just like trying to get people to argue in the comments, he probably doesn't even realize how much that helps your profile to always have people commenting on your stuff. He's created like a little wide circle around himself with the boxing community, and that's why when he does those auctions too and does it in the comments, he's really helping himself out as far as notoriety and profile reach. But I don't want to get too technical. The thing that works is he talks about viral subjects that are going to initiate some argument, and he knows it. So he does it for the conversation, I think, more than anything. But sometimes he does it for advice. Did you see the thing about the trees? His neighbor cut down all those trees. So he was supposed to actually go confront those people today. I saw he posted about that, but apparently his neighbors came in and they cut all the trees down that were privacy trees between both properties, and Scully says they're on his side of the property, according to the tax maps and stuff. So he's got to go confront them. He's talked to a lawyer and everything, I think, already. And I even gave him some advice. I said, as a tree guy and a guy who's represented myself, I would say talk to a lawyer, figure out what your options are, and either give them a call or go talk to them and let them know that you have a lawyer, and try to think about not just compensation, what you would want for the damage, but also think about just telling them, hey, you need to replace those with something, because I don't want to look into your fucking windows. You shouldn't be looking into my backyard, wherever it is. But so yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of Scully. He's just a very down-to-earth guy. He loves talking about different things and stirring the pot a little bit. And so one of the things he stirred the pot with this week was Claressa Shields talking about how great she is and best female ever. And
I saw that one.
And that generated a lot of back and forth. I didn't read it all, but I saw a lot of people agreeing with it. And my 2 cents was, John, I think we need to call Ken Shamrock on this. and then I said, and I bet if you had a female at any weight, basically, I don't know if I said that, but I said, I bet if you had a talented female fighter, you could make them champion in those weight classes too. And I used to always say it when I was coaching and stuff like that. Geez, if I could find a female fighter, it would be so much easier to get her a title than it would be to try to get a male fighter for that. I was always conscious of that, from college onward. Because it's not any knock on women. I've been a champion of women fighters since the day Fight News Unlimited went live. And even back in our MySpace days, seems funny to even say that, MySpace. But it takes me back 30 years almost. No, not that long. But, it's been a while. Anyway, so yeah, I don't say that in a way that demeans women in any way. It's just there's less of them doing it. It's like, how many pole vaulters are there out in the world compared to sprinters? Not too many. But that's basically the idea of it. And you see fights that are for titles with girls who are 7-0. You hardly ever see that with the male fighters. So I actually fully agree with Scully. But his opinion has come really far. Because remember when he got in the first tiff with Scully, with Shamrock, they got into that real big heated argument about whether females should even fight in the first place. And Scully back then, I think his words were I don't want to see a woman all beat up, They're supposed to be pretty. Oh, and that got it started, but yeah.
I'll tell you, Rich, overall in the last 20-some years, though, the improvements that they have made are substantial. Yeah, okay, Claressa Shields, you're right. Instead of like, as Iceman Scully posted, those rankings like 1 out of, say, 1,000 whatever, as opposed out of 1 out of, say, 28. I remember back, in college boxing now, there's a very healthy female boxing division, which when you and I were up there, they may have one or two schools may have had a female fighter. And as an example, we had a girl on our team, and she was, I think, 119 pounds. And she boxed a couple other girls at 119. She boxes in the regionals with a girl at 119, beats her, goes to nationals. In nationals, no other schools had a girl at 119. There was a girl at 125 who won the regionals at 125. So now they both advance on to the nationals. They have nobody to fight except each other. So they have like a catchweight fight. Okay? They both agree to weigh, say, 122 and a half. They weigh 122 and a half. The girl from Penn State or whatever knocked out the girl from Lock Haven. They're both national champions. So you won one fight in the regionals, and you lost. You got knocked out in the nationals. You're a national champion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different story.
That's kind of exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, there's actually a fight card, believe it or not, in Russia this Saturday. And guess what town or city it's in? Vladimir, Russia. I'm not even shitting you.
Well,
Vladimir, Russia. And guess who's on the card? I'm not going to tell you out of protest. Fuck Russia. I'm going to tell you the mismatch of the week officially comes to us from London. Our buddies now. Good buddies. They have always been kind of buddies of ours. But anyway, except for back in that, big war we had with them. But I digress. Light heavyweights in the mismatch of the week. We've got 6-0 Paul Brown. Okay, not too impressive a record, but this is the mismatch of the week for a reason. Oh no, yeah, Paul Brown. Okay, so his opponent is Brian, Bryn, no A, skip the A, and his last name is Wayne, Wain. Think of like the waning moon; it's fading away. Okay, this is his career record. Is drum roll please 0, 31 and 0. No wins and 31 losses. But there's a guy who's trying to poach the mismatch of the week. He's got the guy he's facing with a tie and 4 wins. But his record, Louis Van Poach, his record, 9, 139 and 2. 2 draws. Looking for win number 10. Probably not going to get it. Probably going to get loss number 140. Only in the UK. What do they have, like whole gyms where it's just opponents or something out there? I don't get it. Yeah. Oh, he's like, another guy is 2 and 57. 1 draw. Another guy's 2 and 74 with 3 draws. Ugly. Alright, so let's get to the good fights. We actually have some televised action this Saturday. Not necessarily huge names, but nice big records. And huge sounding names for one guy here in the main event. Superfly. We got Roman Gonzalez, who's 50 and 3. 2 out of the last 6 have been losses for him, but he's fighting Julio Cesar Martinez. 18 and 1. It looks like he's had 2 no contests in his last 6 fights. That's kind of weird. 1, kind of funny, but 2, that's very weird. Co-main event is a featherweight fight between Mauricio Lara, 23, 2 and 1, and Emilio Sanchez, who's 19 and 1. Wonder if he's related to Arislandi Lara. Lightweight, Angel Fierro. No Jesus fight yet, but we got an Angel fight. 9, 18-1-1 is his record. This one's for a title too. He's fighting a very impressive record here, but 4 losses out of his last 6. Only 6 losses in his career. Juan Carlos Burgos, 34-6-2. That one's for the WBO NABO lightweight title. And probably not going to get this guy's name right. Super welterweight, undefeated. Suleiman Sissoko. He's 14-0. Fighting Roberto Valenzuela Jr., who's 23-2 for the WBA Intercontinental Super welterweight title. And I wonder if this guy's related to Ferdy. Diego Pacheco, 13-0. Fighting Cenk Palana, 9-3-1 at super middleweight. That's a pretty nice little card there. Oh, we got our Angel fight of the week. And then we got our heavyweight Moses fight of the week. Moses came before Jesus this week, unfortunately. Moses Johnson, he's 8-0, fighting Robert Sims, a heavyweight, 11-3 in Dearborn, Michigan. Oh wow, good stuff. All right, am I gonna have to do the find on page to find our Jesus? Oh, 10-0 in Wyoming at the top of the ticket at the Outlaw Saloon in Cheyenne, Wyoming. On Saturday, we've got super middleweights Sean McCallman, 10-0, fighting Marquise Moore, 10-0. Some of those got to go fight right there. The main event, not a big event, but qualifies. All right, let's find our Jesus fight of the week. I know we gotta have one. What are the bets that there's none? We got any? Anybody taking a bet? Well, closest thing is Jessica Juarez. No Jesus fight this week. At least not on Saturday. Maybe there will be a Jesus TBA. That's our only hope. There's a lot of TBAs this week. But yeah, we got a Jessica. That's about it. Alright. I know I got a couple more stories to mention, and that'll probably do it for us. We spent half the show talking about politics.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we got to separate out the political stuff and like put it on a political show. That would be funny. All of a sudden we got like 20,000 more viewers. Crazy. Anyway. Actually, we didn't talk about the other story I did want to mention that I said was kind of as big, probably bigger than the Cain Velasquez story, is the Klitschko brothers, and also Alexander Usyk and Lomachenko are all actually over there in the Ukraine, on the ground, fighting, in the true sense of the word, not just with gloves. Now, obviously, Vitaly, I think it was Vitaly, right, was the mayor of Kiev. So, you know, he obviously had kind of like a duty-bound situation there. But yeah. The first article about this that I read said, Klitschko brothers to fight for Ukraine, Usyk returns and Lomachenko flees. So I don't know if Lomachenko left and came back or what happened, but I have seen pictures with him having a rifle slung over his shoulder, so apparently he's there. And, you know, it's unbelievable, the guy, the president there of Ukraine, I don't know if you guys heard this, but, you know, I try to watch both CNN and Fox News, and every time there's a war situation, they bring, like, the best guys in the business who have been doing this shit for years in foreign countries and stuff, and, like, they get intelligence, like, you wouldn't believe. And so one report says that they actually had a hit squad sent in, and it was compromised because one of the Russians tipped them off. Like, that's how much Russia is actually, the people of Russia are against this thing. So somebody on the Russian side tipped them off, and like right outside the airport, the entire hit squad that was going after Zelensky there was murdered, like gunned down. Sayonara. So they didn't even get close to him. And that guy's at like superhero status right now. Crazy. Alright, I never actually read this article, but I brought it up just for the headline. An American suffered 5 broken ribs due to one body kick. Oh, it was that one that I was talking about last week, Tom. Andrei Koreshkov.
Yeah.
He broke 5 ribs and a punctured lung in 38 seconds. Jesus. Ouch. And I told you that was like one of my favorite knockouts. Yikes. I guess that was the reason. I don't know. I didn't even know that when I said it, but it's pretty crazy. Alright, now we got a Bellator thing. I'm waiting for that to load. There has been actually word going around. Remember I said to Sean Wheelock, I think, I've said to you guys too, I think Jake Paul is going to kind of fade out now that he's in an ownership position of the UFC. I think he's going to kind of stop talking as loudly and consistently about fighter pay because it's affecting his bottom line now, no matter how little of a position he has in it. And I haven't read a lot about fighter pay from Jake Paul, but I have read this week that he has been in conversations with Bellator to do the MMA fighting with them. That's kind of intriguing. At the same time, if he goes and does that, it's going to be looked at as like a treachery by the UFC, unless he's really doing it to kind of steal their concept of how they treat fighters and bring a little bit of that back to the UFC. Kind of like how one of our old guests from way back in the day who used to hook us up with a bunch of UFC fighters, Ken Pavia, who was literally forced out of the business of being an MMA agent because he shared contracts from the UFC with Bellator. Got in a lot of trouble for that. Dana White took it personally. Dana White and actually Joe Silva, the guy that used to be the matchmaker for the UFC, was really good friends with Ken. And their relationship kind of went south after that too. But yeah, who knows? Maybe Logan's going to go over there to Bellator and be a little spy for the UFC. That's how much he's turned to the dark side. But or not Logan, Jake Paul. So yeah, it's going to get interesting. I don't know how much is going to be talked about as far as fighter pay now with him. We'll see how dedicated he really is to the topic. Alright, I think that's it for us.
Isn't one of the Paul brothers going to be in WrestleMania?
Oh, I'm sure he probably could be. Well, I know that, Logan Paul is probably never going to fight Mike Tyson. Mike has kind of backpedaled on all that big time. And I think he's got a real sour taste in his mouth because of the last Triller thing. And apparently he still hasn't even been paid for that. Crazy. Here's one to end on. Rule breaker. A boxer stunned fight fans last weekend by landing 2 double-leg takedowns at Global Legion FC 20. The guy competes in mixed martial arts, appeared to forget he was taking part in a boxing match. As he shot in for a takedown less than a minute into his clash with Timmy Mason last weekend. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, once you have the boxing shoes on, you'd think you would realize you're in a different environment. But this Cuban guy executed a picture-perfect power double, beautifully dropping to his knees and slamming Mason to the canvas. That can happen a lot when the guy doesn't know it's coming. Referee and announcers were left absolutely stunned by the takedown, and Mason was powerless to stop it. He was quickly pushed off Mason so he couldn't rain down any ground and pound, and did not get disqualified. But just moments later, it soon became apparent that Blas's takedown wasn't muscle memory kicking in, as he took Mason down a second time. The ref struggled to pull El Indio off his opponent the second time, but promptly disqualified him from the match after separating the pair. Probably should go to the rules meeting before the fight. Figure out what's going on. Well, here's where it gets interesting. 2 days after the shambles of a fight, Bloss's coach revealed he instructed him to take Mason down in retaliation to him being punched in the back of the head. He wrote on Instagram, "Instant revenge." Oh, I didn't even read this beforehand, but this is classic. Unbelievable. Wow. His original opponent also pulled out the morning of the fight. Crazy. And it says that he stepped up within hours of the event to fight in a boxing match with an opponent 20 pounds heavier. I don't know how that's even legal. We had a lawsuit over shit like that with Joey Gamache against the Boxing Commission and Arturo Gatti. Anyway, crazy stuff. You talk about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Oh, you're gonna hit me in the back of the head? Well, I'm gonna take you down twice. Unreal. All right, until next week. Let's see. Got one more week before we've got Ryan Roach and James Hagler Jr. And then we're trying to get somebody for next week. Actually, I read today about the Underground, Tom. One of the guys that just helped them broker a deal with Sports Illustrated has actually got a history where not a history, but like he's grown up. He lives in Abington, where I used to do the show out of my buddy's house for a couple of years, where I lived with him and did some painting during the day, stuff like that. And I think I was working on the tail end of the Zions case still then. But anyway, Abington, I used to live there, and this guy is from there. That's where he lives now. And he's on Facebook, and somebody did a big post about the Underground there, and them teaming up with Sports Illustrated. So I texted him, and I said we have an opening next week. I haven't heard back yet, but, not everybody's like me and is on Facebook almost 4 or 5 hours a day. At least looking at it, from time to time. So, it might take him a day or two to get back to me. But that would be interesting. There are all kinds of different people that I have not yet added on Facebook in the MMA business, and with some of the other websites too. I haven't thought of making a little networking attempts at them. But that's a big one. Like back in the day when Zions first started, the whole story first started, I used to do a lot of link building by posting them on those forums. And I communicated with a guy who ran it at one point, ran the whole forum. Very educated guy. So, anyway, that's in the pipeline for next week. And then we're going to have Freddie Roach relative and a Marvin Hagler relative on the same show. Definitely bound to be interesting. So that's about it. Wish me luck. I'm going to win the million. No, the thousands, whatever it is. On the FanDuel this weekend. We'll see. And then next week we will either have a guest or we will talk about all the fights going on this weekend. I didn't even check about Bellator. And
I'm following this Major League Baseball bullshit because I'm flying to Clearwater in 9 days.
Yeah,
right now,
I told Tom you were probably going to be pissed off.
Pissed off.
Yeah, those are my exact words. I was like, Tony's going to be pissed off tonight.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm going down there, and I'm coming up with a contingency plan. Like, okay, my original plan was flying on Saturday, go to games Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, fly home on Friday, spend Sunday and Tuesday in Clearwater Beach. Doesn't look like it's going to happen now. So what I might do is still fly in on Saturday, spend a couple of days in Clearwater Beach. I'm not a person that likes to sit on the sand, so you're not going to see me sitting on the beach or going in the water. But I'll go to a lot of bars, and I'll go to, just different places, and, just bum around, drink. They do have at Hulk Hogan's bar karaoke on Monday nights with Hulk Hogan and sometimes Ric Flair. Of course, the week I go, they'll be in Cleveland or somewhere.
You should bring your boxing gloves, Tony. To bring like 6 pairs of boxing gloves and just start the BFC, the Beach Fight Club. And then maybe I'll catch an earlier flight home. But I'm going to honor all my appearances. Everywhere I promise that I'll be, and I'll do all the photos that people want. Now, 2 years ago when I went down there, right after the games were canceled, and I brought my entire down there, and I went out in front of the Phillies Stadium, in front of the spring training banner, and I just held my arms up in like a question mark, like, what the hell? This year, I'm going to recreate that, but instead of holding my arms up like a question mark, I'm going to hold my hands up and give one hand for Major League Baseball and one hand for the owners. The number 1 symbol. I think they're both number 1, but I'm going to use my middle. Nice. Well, it's good that you're not canceling it.
On Major League Baseball, I'm like, will you guys be compensating my flight?
Yeah. Yeah, there's it makes me think a lot about the fighter pay issue, actually. It's like, pissing me off, actually, because, the whole thing about all the other leagues is they have the players' unions that can negotiate shit like that. And sometimes, it's bad for fans because they have a little bit too much bargaining power. But other times, it's like, you're actually grateful that it happens. Because, especially for the guys that are on the lowest end of the totem pole, not getting paid a lot of money. But, I mean, you look at some of these guys' salaries and, like, how teams have to, like, cut people just to pay one guy's salary. It does get a little bit ridiculous. So there's a lot for MLB fans to be pissed about in this situation. And, like, sometimes you just want to shake some of these players that are blocking it and say, listen, buddy, do you know how much a guy that gets in the fucking cage and fights for 15 minutes gets paid? And has to pay for all the expenses himself. A fraction of what you're making to go out there and run around and catch a ball and hit it. So, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, well, hopefully. Well, I'll have more updates when I'm, getting ready, because, so when we talk next week, it'll be Thursday, and I'm flying on Saturday, so.
Right.
I'll know if I'm shortening my trip, or I'll know, if there's going to be games. But, either way, I've told some of the businesses down there, I said, you know what, you're going to get the best of me. Fuck them, you're going to get me.
So, here's a question for you. I don't know if you know this, but what happens to the minors, like the minor leagues, when the MLB decides not to have
minor leagues are not affected. Because, see, what happened was, 20-some years ago, when they had a strike in 94, they started the season without the collective bargaining agreement, and then midway through the season, the players said, you know what, fuck it, we're going on strike. So now, in December, that collective bargaining agreement that they settled on like 5, 6, 7 years ago expired, and they're going to work towards a new one. Well, the owner said, you know what, until you sign a new one, we're going to lock you out, so that way you can't walk out on us. We're basically going to freeze you, so we're going to preemptively strike on you. And then only met like 3 times in like 2.5 months. Then like in the last week they were meeting like every day for like, first few days was like an hour. One day was like 15 minutes. Next thing you know, like the day before they're meeting for like 16 hours. Well, if you would have had the urgency in the beginning, maybe we would have worked this out.
Yeah.
So like I said, basically the players wanted this, and the player stance is the owners' revenue has increased so much over like per year by this much, and what we're getting is whatever.
Yeah.
So we want higher like minimum salaries for certain players. We want like better whatever. So they're asking. We want a better bonus pool. They're asking for all this, and the owners are like, nope. So now it's like it's all come down. It all comes than the money. So the players can say, well, we didn't go on strike. The owners locked us out because we didn't sign a new deal.
Yeah.
But so the owners locked them out because they could, walk out at any time. But the minor leagues, double A's to triple A's, anybody that's not on the 40-man roster, they're unaffected. Like, they're down in Florida right now. They're working out. They're having, like, inter-squad games, So, so they're doing that now. It's like I already got tickets to a couple minor league games this year during the season. They will not be affected, So those games that I bought, I'm gonna go to.
Wow. They were really smart. They would have a big tournament at the time that spring training is supposed to be going on. In Florida. Right. But they probably didn't have enough advance notice that it was going to happen. So what can you do?
Yeah. Yeah, fuck it. I'll go down there, at least, hey, I'll give my people, I'll give my fans,
Nice.
So.
Yeah.
Well, all right, well, gentlemen, I will talk to you guys next Thursday.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks for stopping by.
See you guys
Enjoy
later.
the fight.